I know that all the Raiders fans are tuned into this because me and the Raiders fans don't get along. And what I have to say to the Raiders fans in the start of this season is, ha! I told you. This team failed again this week. Let all of their fans down in their home opener here against the Panthers. And it kind of went exactly how I expected it, Leo. For anyone that was listening last week, I was saying that this Andy Dalton surprise is not going to be a pleasant one for the Raiders defense, who, in my opinion, had been struggling up until this point, stopping the run and stopping the pass. And I thought maybe all of this was going to come downhill on the Raiders defense this week. And sure enough, you get someone in there that has some confidence and has nothing to lose, truly, willing to just throw it up. With these weapons, it was going to start to become something. And I honestly thought when I made the prediction, I picked the Panthers to beat the Raiders last week. I was being a hater. I was trolling a little bit. But that feeling, those thoughts, those were real. That made me feel like this game could at least be close or go the Panthers' way. What was your reactions to this game? I have a lot of people tuned into this that are very interested in this game. Hey, sorry for interrupting myself, but one quick reminder before you forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you can be here every single time I post. It's the free way you guys can support the channel. We're trying to build something special here very early on in the stages here. We only have 10,000 subscribers. We're trying to get 20,000 subscribers. The only way that's possible is if you guys support the channel by liking the video, subscribing, turn on notifications. And probably gonna tune out of this as soon as we stop talking about this, or as soon as I give more of my hatred.
Yeah, they're gonna want to stay tuned, man, because we got a show. You know, first of all, if you're the Raiders, what are you doing losing to the Panthers at home? Okay, very unexpected, very unacceptable. And I think when you have a guy like Andy Dalton, who clearly was never fond of being on the bench, you always felt that he was a starter in this league. You know, Bryce Young got benched. They was losing the locker room over there in Carolina. And he was, obviously going to play with that motivation. And remember last year, that one game that he played for the Panthers, he had 360 yards, I believe, in that game. And he performed well. So he was just waiting on that second chance opportunity, which definitely came this week. That shocked everybody, including myself. I was not expecting Bryce Young to be benched so early this year. But that's how the league goes sometime. And Andy Dalton got the call and he balled. He elevated the roster immediately. I remember last week, Adam Thielen looking like he wanted to go to Thailand. Okay, after the game was over, like he wanted to go away. I mean, he was frustrated. Deontay Johnson was frustrated. And Deontay Johnson had 8 catches for 122 yards. Okay, even my guy Chuba Hubbard was out here balling. He had over 100 yards in the game as well. I think it was Xavier Leggett, the rookie. He had a big play down the field. So almost immediately you see Andy Dalton elevate the roster, and they won the game. They punched the Raiders in the mouth. They didn't play with no physicality whatsoever. Everything was just so basic. Run, pass, same script. And the Raiders got a lot of issues right now.
Yeah, and that sounds like Luke Getsy, man. That's what we've seen. And it's kind of been exposed already at this point that the Nathaniel Hackett, the Luke Getsy, and all that hype around those guys and their offenses are Aaron Rodgers built. Aaron Rodgers is a special player that can run that very simple but also advanced offense where it's all about split-second decisions, 1-inch decisions. We saw that throw to Garrett Wilson on the goal line. That's 1 inch from being a pick six, and that's just stuff that Aaron Rodgers excels at and is maybe the greatest, if not second greatest of all time at. And they're trying to bring that out originally to Denver with Nathaniel Hackett, to Chicago with Luke Getsy. Didn't work in either spot. Didn't think it was going to work here with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell either. And I don't even think the Raiders wanted Getsy, because remember, they originally had Cliff Kingsbury, who I'm not a huge fan of because of a lot of stuff that happens in that documentary I saw about Johnny Manziel. But give him some credit for what the Washington Commanders offense is doing right now. I mean, they have the worst defense in football, and no one's even talking about it. All they're talking about is Jaden Daniels.
I mean, they couldn't tackle last night whatsoever. I seen about 6-7 missed tackles in that entire game, and it didn't matter.
Terrible. It is god awful. And I'm going to talk about that more. We're going to talk about that more when we get to some Cowboys talk here in a second. But the Luke Getsy offense has not worked. The Nathaniel Hackett offense has not worked separated from Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think it's ever going to work. So, and AP and them didn't think so either. They wanted Cliff Kingsbury in there. They didn't want Luke Getsy. So that's big problems for the Raiders, like you're saying. And this offense doesn't really have like a path forward to serious improvement. They don't have some hot backup. Like, I feel like benching AOC kind of like just killed his confidence right then and there, killed any hope that this guy is the Raiders franchise quarterback, because they benched him for Gardner Minshew of all people. It's not even like they benched him for a known veteran that's been in the league, been to the Super Bowl, like a Jimmy Garoppolo last season. That didn't work out for them. Really, when it comes down to it, Leo, and I'll let you go here because I know I've been ranting for a second. On both sides of the ball for the Raiders, their D-line, which is monstrous, and I'll admit that, and they were very good against the Chargers before they started to suffer some injuries here in the next couple of games. The D-line can only be as good as the secondary, which I think stinks, in my opinion. And I will be honest, if they have a good secondary. I'm saying they have a great D-line. But when you're getting cooked right off the snap of the ball, catch and throw, Andy Dalton's got Deontay Johnson wide open, the D-line can't do anything. And on the other side of the ball, this weapon core with Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, they almost have too many weapons on that side of the ball. Can only be as good as the offensive line, which sucks. The rushing attack sucks this year. And all of the Raiders fans were talking about Zeus and how he's going to have this breakout year. And I kept telling them, behind who? Who is getting him the space to have this breakout year that they've been talking about? Both sides of the ball have major problems. And we're going to talk about what we think the Raiders should do going forward from here. But anything else you want to say here before we kind of build out a quick rough draft for a plan for the Raiders?
Yeah, I think we can get right into that plan, because I think immediately, you have to look at, firing the offensive coordinator. He should have never been hired to begin with. And I understand that there was a lot of options, being taken off the table, but he ain't able. He's not that dude whatsoever. We saw that evident in Chicago. And like I said, you're watching the game, everything is run, pass. Okay, literally, it was so predictable. If it was predictable for me, clearly it was predictable for the Panthers defense. And I think one of the moves that they should have definitely made, and I understand it's not going to be an easy thing to, really think through, but why is Devontae Adams still here? Okay, you got a guy, a wide receiver, leaving the prime of his career, but still arguably could be a top 10 wide receiver in the league still. Maybe if you had a quarterback higher than that, he's expensive on your team. Clearly, there's no pathway forward of offensive success. Why is he still here? Trade that man. They should have traded him in the offseason, because the only thing that he's going to do is complain. This guy got a reputation. Okay, clearly. All right, he does not want that reputation to be tarnished. And clearly right now it is. So I think you should trade that man. Every time I look at Devontae Adams, he's talking about a whole different quarterback other than Gardner Minshew. He's talking about Jaden Daniels. He's talking about Derek Carr. He's talking about Aaron Rodgers. He's talking about Real Lil. I mean, he's talking about everybody else other than Gardner Minshew. Okay, trade that man. That would be my next move. And they got other issues, offensive line issues. You got to attack that through the draft. You got to attack that via free agency maybe next year. There's a lot of moves that need to be made, and it's probably going to take Jesus turning water into wine.
That's what it feels like. I completely agree with you, and that's why my take here and my plan for the Raiders is to kind of punt on the season already. I mean, you entered the year in the situation that they were in at quarterback, in the situation that they were in at head coach, and they just kind of pieced it together and are throwing it out there, and it's not worked out immediately here. So I mean, there's a path forward to where they can turn this into something of a positive. And I'm with you. This team just lost to what we view as the worst team in football, and they got smoked by them. I mean, how bad are the Raiders? I think that they're not the worst team in the league. I don't think that they're even worse than the Carolina Panthers, honestly. I think that if they redo that game in a couple weeks and the Raiders get their feet under them, I may be on the Raiders' side to win that thing. But they're not good enough to where go ahead.
They had a puzzling quarterback situation. I mean, you start there. When I looked at their quarterback plan, that was by far the worst plan in the NFL, along with the worst offensive coordinator hire. That was never going to gel. You know, even the Vikings, they didn't believe in Sam Darnold clearly by virtue of giving him a 1-year deal and a flat fee, basically off the clearance rack. But they had a plan. They was going to ease in, you know, JJ McCarthy, a 2-step plan. And look how Sam Darnold is playing right now. So they had the worst quarterback plan of any team this offseason, and they're reaping the benefits of that plan.
Yeah, and the Raiders have to just really, if they, from an unbiased Chargers fans perspective, before we move on to talk about the Chargers, they need to go ahead and finally put it in that they're rebuilding, like from scratch. They need to go ahead and accept defeat and fully rebuild it, because they've been in this constant cycle where they are just right there on the edge. They're average with their current quarterback, Derek Carr, and they think that they need to do these last few things to get over the hump. But really, you're not getting over the hump. You're just staying average and staying out of range to get the quarterback that's going to put them over the hump. What they need to do is they need to avoid all of that. And I agree with you. The first step, I would start Minshew for a few more weeks, first of all, and I would get in Getsy's ear and say, hey, man, I know that you're the offensive coordinator for this season. We don't know what's going on going forward, but we need to feed Davante Adams right now. So Gardner Minshew, Davante Adams, go out there for 2 to 3 more games. Try and win every single one. Who knows? If you go 3-0, if you go 2-1, things are turned around and you can kind of pivot your plan from there. But let's say, realistically, the Raiders continue to lose, continue to struggle, but you're feeding Davante Adams, building his trade value. Then you send him at the trade deadline. That's going to be where you're going to get the max value for Adams right now. The suitors and the teams that are going to be ready to go all in and get Davante Adams are going to be endless. And I think that the Raiders can almost get what they gave for him back. Almost. Probably a 3rd-round pick at least, at minimum, for Davante Adams right now in the middle of the season. And then once Davante Adams is out of there, that clears up space for the youngsters to get better. That gives you a reason to throw AOC back out there when his receiver's not going to throw a fit, when he doesn't throw him the ball every single freaking play. You ride out the rest of the season, you win 5 games, and you're in position next draft to draft the actual franchise quarterback and start rebuilding this thing with the cap space that you saved from it. And build Antonio Pierce's defense up. That's something but what I think is going to happen, what I worry, or I hope happens.
He's a defensive guy. So you got to give him the parts to be able to coach them guys up and to get them playing elite level football.
Exactly. And what I hope happens is that they just do the same thing they've been doing. They're going to have QB controversy all season. The fan base is going to be demanding for the backup at all times for the rest of the year. They're going to stay like an average team, hold on to Davante Adams, and these weapons are going to carry them. Max Crosby's going to make those plays in those close games to get them enough wins to get to 8 wins, 7 wins. And they're going to wake up September 1st of 2025 in the exact same spot with Sam Darnold as quarterback, AOC as backup, Davante Adams pissed off out wide, all these weapons, but no offensive line. And they're just going to keep spinning the wheels on this same thing over and over again.
They won a couple games last year that maybe if they didn't win those games, they would have been in position to get a quarterback. They may have been able to leapfrog over Denver. They would have been able to get Bo Nix. They would have been able to get somebody other than Gardner Minshew. Yeah, Michael Penix. And yeah, it's kind of a disservice to invest this much in the weapons, draft capital and cap-wise, and then not get a quarterback in there. I think that the path forward should be very clear for Tom Telesco, the former Chargers GM, but Raiders fans, he tortured us for years. Yes, we would get excited about some of the additions, some of the draft picks. A lot of that stuff was exciting, but when you look at the whole of the Chargers over the last decade with Tom Telesco as a general manager, they've had a bunch of teams that have had no depth, and they've hired 5 coaches. Thank you for tuning in to another NFL Mike video. Now it's time to go make more football friends or go and compete in the Mike's Pickems Challenge or against me in daily fantasy football challenges by joining my completely free NFL group chat. Or head to fifthdown.shop and check out and see if we got your team's newest designs. Or now you can simply rep your favorite players without having to wear another team's gear. And then tag us in pictures of you wearing your Fifth Down merch for a shout out in the next episode of NFL Mike's Corner. And help us reach our goal of getting 1,000 NFL fans wearing Fifth Down. Or you can head to the next NFL Mike video by clicking it. It's on your screen. Go ahead.